Yo, it's fucking RSD Rick and RSD Nub Swag, and we're out
Julian here and Owen and
and you know, we've been talking to a bunch of people in hostels these past few weeks. We keep coming across the same bit of confusion that people suffer from, so we're here to clear that up a little bit. And basically it's the difference between conversion rates, the exchange rate between foreign currencies, and the difference between purchasing power. They're not the same thing. People fuck them up all the time, and it pisses us off.
Yep, and I think the best way to explain that, like from the beginning, is a concept that a lot of people understand really intuitively because they learned it when they were young, and that is inflation. So when you look at money from like the 1970s and money now, everyone understands that like money changes its value over time, and that's obviously just inflation. So $5 today will not be worth $5 in the future, and that's just because of inflation. And that relates a lot intuitively to purchasing power. But purchasing power is the difference of money's power in different areas, locally within a country, as well as across country lines.
So, for instance, and people get this confused, if you look at the difference between the American dollar and then you were going to exchange for British pounds, you're gonna get about $1.2 for every pound that you exchange it. A lot of people think that that means for every dollar, you're gonna have $1.2 in the UK to be able to spend. However, when you actually break it down, it's about the opposite, and the dollar is only worth, or the pound is only worth about 3/4 of what the dollar is.
Right.
So it's flipped, and
even
people
though
get
the
it back.
exchange
They get it backwards.
is higher.
Yeah, exactly. For instance, if you go to the Philippines, like we're in right now, for every dollar you get about 50 pesos. However, that does not mean that you can buy
50 times the amount of
50
money.
times the amount of money.
Exactly, it's even more.
It's even less.
Well, it is even less, yeah, you're right.
It's about so
about 3 times more.
Here in the Philippines, our dollar goes about 2.5 to 3 times more. You can buy real products here in the Philippines. You can buy about 2.5 to 3 times more real products here in the Philippines with every dollar that you can in America.
So like another way to put that would be, and I think this is the most intuitive way to understand purchasing power, is if you live in Colorado and you make $100,000 a year, and then if you live in San Francisco and you make $100,000 a year, that's not the same amount of money, even though it's a US dollar in both locations.
Yes.
So purchasing power is just the simple idea that the power for purchasing is different in different locations. And that makes a lot of sense when you're just talking about the same type of currency, but it confuses people. Yeah, it confuses people when you.
Make sure you point at me. So.
Okay. Yeah. It confuses people when you combine purchasing power and exchange rates. So while there's no exchange rate between Colorado and San Francisco, there is an exchange rate difference and a purchasing power difference when you go to different countries. Like the lesser quality North America Canadian people. Like this fucker quality.
And so in Canada, it's a little more.
They got loonies and toonies. They got loonies and toonies.
I got a deal in Thailand.
You got a deal in Thailand?
Yeah, they just called me.
That's fucking dope.
It's either Philippines.
This is our baller basketball player friend. He's crazy.
Half Serbian, half
like
Canadian.
over in Cebu? You got it?
No, like I got Cebu and then I have Thailand now.
Oh shit.
What should I do? What's better?
Do both. You can't do both?
Can't do both.
Oh shit.
Sounds so Canadian. Both.
Do both. Why are you about it? Why are you tripping about it?
So drunk right now.
Yo, talk about purchasing power.
You know purchasing power.
Yeah, so like this man,
Let's walk.
smart as fuck. No, bro, I ordered food and I have a girl there.
Okay, we'll meet you later.
We'll make sure that. What's the name? Gross. So,
Yeah.
for instance, that Canadian guy, in Canada, it's a little more intuitive because if I were to go to Canada, for every $10 that I exchange my money for, I'm gonna get about 15, 13 Canadian dollars. And so it's intuitive because I'm getting more of their money and I'm able to buy more things
Right.
when I'm there.
Right, but the confusing part is that sometimes you can get more money and still have less purchasing power. So for
Exactly.
example, when I was in South America last year in March of 2019, you could buy Chilean pesos with the US dollar. And if I remember correctly, the conversion rate was about 3,000 to 1. So you would get 3,000 Chilean pesos for every dollar that you spent. But the tricky thing was the purchasing power was stronger in Chile back then. So even though you had more dollars or pesos, you had less purchasing power. So even if you were to be a millionaire in Chile, because it's a 3,000 conversion, you actually have less money. So it's like a tricky little thing where you have more bills by the value of one, but you have less money by the value of purchasing power. And that's the number one way I would explain it, is that you can't use conversion rates and exchange rates just to understand how much money you have. So just because the dollar to the euro is like 1.14, $1 gets you 1.14 euros, that doesn't mean that the euro is 1.14 times stronger than the dollar.
Exactly.
You have
And
to
so-
use indexes.
And so we would argue that the more important measure is purchasing power. And the way to measure that is by looking at how much of your dollar you can use to buy basic things that aren't going to fluctuate too much, like utilities, food, renting out a taxi, etc.
And then you average
And-
out the aggregate of all of those commodities to get a weight that you can use to balance between two different
So
exchange
you're going to
rates.
be able to tell how far the dollar or your dollar that you're using in your home country is going to go in a different country. And the reason
Exactly.
that there's differences in the first place is the purchasing power is tied very tightly to the economy.
Which is intuitive when you look at like San Francisco's economy versus Colorado.
It's way more
You're
booming
like, oh, I get
than
that. I get
Colorado.
that San Francisco has a booming economy over Colorado more, so that's why their money is stronger there.
And so, therefore, because America, if you look at the GDP, it's about 20 trillion. China's the next competitor, it's about 14 trillion. So we're far ahead in terms of GDP. And then if you look at a country like Great Britain, you know, England, they've done a lot of great things, but economic wise, they have a lower
so
GDP
condescending.
than the state of California.
Yeah.
And so therefore it would make intuitive sense that the dollar, pound for pound, when you're taking into effect purchasing power, is going to be a lot stronger. And
Exactly.
it surprises a lot of British people that literally our purchasing power
It's stronger.
is much stronger. Like the pound is only worth about 3/4
Yeah.
of what the dollar is.
Yeah. And to go back to the point about like using an aggregate sum of all of the commodities that you find in that economy, you can just use a heuristic like the Big Mac index, which gives you like a pretty good rough idea. And that shows you the strength of each currency based on Big Macs. And you can explain that better than me.
The reason that the Big Mac index is so powerful is because McDonald's is a worldwide corporation, and in every local
And the
market,
incentive.
they pay people millions of dollars to make sure that every hamburger, every French fry they produce is produced as efficiently as possible.
Yep.
And so, basically, how much a Big Mac costs in a country using your dollar. Your dollar
Well,
is a
your
reflection.
currency.
Your currency is a reflection of basically the price of goods in the country.
Exactly.
Or at least it's a heuristic
Yep.
of it. And so you take a country like Switzerland, which is the only country with a higher purchasing power, the Swiss franc. A Big Mac in US dollars would cost $6.7 compared to America's 5.7. Compared to a country like Great Britain, it's 4. Compared to the Philippines, it's about 3.5.
Yep.
So you can see just from that there's discrepancies based on countries. Some countries are cheaper to live in, some countries are more expensive to live in. And the Big Mac index is, if not one of the best heuristics, because McDonald's has been a corporation for so long internationally, it's based in every single country.
Let's go on this hard one. Yeah, so to summarize everything we're saying, don't use exchange rates to figure out how much money you have. Use something like the Big Mac index or any other available index online to figure out how much money you really have.
Boom.